do you do any things in your games to ensure that the PCs are special in that way? Like, does everybody have a +1 sword? Do you limit that, or do you just kind of let it go full Eberron and magic is aplenty? So I don't know. It was more of a not more of a question, I guess, just for like you guys and your dungeon master. Like, what do you do in homebrew worlds? I guess in a sense. So
hello everybody, my name is AJ. Welcome to the channel. This is the DM's Roundtable. We're currently chatting with Jordan. Hello, Jordan.
Hello. I've got a silent PH in my name, and I have a YouTube channel here on YouTube. So this is awesome. Go check it out.
And Josiah. Hello, Josiah.
I don't have a silent PH in my name, but I do have a YouTube channel called Dungeon Dad. You should go check it out.
Yeah, we did a collab video a while back, and it was awesome. We should do that again.
I agree.
And also, Wally, we should do a collab video at some point as well.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Wally DM, and I do a YouTube channel that is focused on puzzles and traps.
We're getting very slick at doing these introductions, as you can tell.
Yes.
So that is an excellent topic.
By the end of the night, you'll just be like, I'm Jordan. What?
Yeah.
Give me the question. Gosh, it's been 30 of these.
What?
So the Magic and Forgotten Realms, because that's kind of my specialty, has changed over the different editions. And Mystara has actually withdrawn a lot of the freedom to use magic in the world of Toril that previously existed. Basically, back in the day, 1,000 years ago or something, anybody with the talent and wherewithal to tap into magic, and who could read formulas and arcane stuff, could actually tap into it and use it. So peasants were plowing their fields with animated plows and things like that, and wizards were making all sorts of crazy monster combinations and things, and giant empires of magic rose up out of the dust to change the face of the world forever, and even bring in populations from other planets and other species from different dimensions and things. The elves, have crash landed another part of the planes of existence into the world of Toril and drastically changed the landscape and things like that. So we're living in a post-magic rich environment now, almost a post-apocalyptic world, an age between ages in the world of Toril. So it's a very interesting question. And that idea of do you have to go to a wizard's academy? Like, how does a barbarian cross-class with some magical talent? That is a very interesting question. So I guess the answer for me would be, what is the player's point of view on that? What is the backstory of this character? How does it make sense to them that they've cross-classed in this way? Because you can sort of introduce the idea of having to go to a wizard's academy, or having to buy or barter for magical lore, or the idea that you sort of in the Forgotten Realms, you've got all these old empires who have scattered archaeological dust, all of this arcane lore which is there for the taking, and all sorts of dangerous. I mean, it's like landmines. You could pick up this thing that's just sitting in your field somewhere, and it's some artifact of a lost civilization. Who knows what they might uncover? And perhaps restricting it to people of genuine talent protects them somewhat from that magical detritus.
So I guess a follow-up question, and maybe this will clarify, is, are your PCs special to know magic, or can literally anybody know magic if they put their mind to it enough? Do you have to be, for lack of a better example, force sensitive in order to use the force? And there's just some people that are like, I just can't do it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like how some people are ambidextrous and some people are right-handed. I mean, I can't do left-handed stuff. That's just me. Is magic, and I don't want to say should it be, but I'm just curious, do you view, or do your players view magic like that that's something that they get to do? And maybe a few NPCs, because there's a couple out there, but could anyone put their nose to the grindstone and cut off a mountain and levitate and fly around?
Yeah.
What do you think, Josiah?
I think that you mentioned this earlier, which I think hits the nail on the head, which was, it definitely varies by setting in a big way, right? You have Forgotten Realms, you have a 17th level bard running an inn. That's just a thing, and he's just slinging beers. Why is he serving beer in a bar? Who knows? Whatever. What's that guy?
Because he wants to, yeah.
Right. And then you have other worlds, I don't know, Dark Sun, where it's if that same character's there, he's God now. It's So I don't think there's really
Welcome to Bard Town, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's really a right or wrong answer. I think that it's just something that everyone has to decide for themselves. If the court will allow, what I have prepared, which I will keep as concise as possible, is literally just like a short list of different types of magic and how I handle it in my world.
Oh, yeah,
And
cool.
what I do, okay. So first up, you have like bloodline magic, which is your sorcerers, right? Either like your great grandpa banged a dragon, and now you can cast Eldritch Blast or whatever. Or well, that's a bad example because that's a warlock spell. But the point is, I'm already way off base. Never mind, I passed. No, but the point is, you have something at some point in your lineage was not like normal, for lack of a better term. You're you know, you have a dragon in your ancestry or something like that.
You're saying that, like, as a human or as a dwarf or something, you are not natively magic, but now you are because your great-great-grandmother was a fae or something.
Sure, exactly. And that's very much in line with what you were saying about how, like, force sensitive, for lack of a better term, right? So, like, that's your sorcerers, right? And then you have your wizards, which usually comes down to, like, aptitude and time, which is to say, like, you know,
culture,
or even culture as well, right? Like, and that, to draw a real world example, it's like, yeah, not, I guess, on paper, anyone can be like an astrophysicist, but like, how many people do you know that have like the aptitude and the wherewithal and the willingness to dedicate their life to that? Because realistically, a competent wizard, like, bare minimum, unless you are a genius, is like 60 plus. Like, it takes you that long to get to like level 2, right? Which is why every wizard you see is like, oh, big long beard, super old, like, because it's taken them that long to figure out how to cast fireball without killing themselves, right? Like, and which being the barrier to entry for that, I always imagine, is that it's very hard and not necessarily like guaranteed profit, because you could sink 20 years into that and be like, wow, I suck at this. I should have just like remained a farmer and I could have been retired by now, and I would have children to take over the business or whatever. Instead, I just have this old book and this stupid hat, and now I feel like an idiot. Like, you know, so there's
who will inherit my wizard tower when I'm gone?
What'd you say? That's fireball.
Yeah, and then they get
whippersnapper sorcerers.
Oh boy, can he get kids off his lawn? Like, just they're gone. They're gone. They're incinerated.
Yeah.
Interesting statues you have in the lawn here.
Very fearful for some reason. And then you have your. I like to think that I would fall into the group of a wizard, but I know I fall into this group, which is your slackers, your warlocks, who are just like, I could do that. Or I could just sign over my soul to this guy, whatever. I'm sure it'll be fine. And then I can just go like throw tentacles at people. Now, realistically, becoming a warlock, like, it's like, yeah, you're just signing your life away. You have to find an entity that will make a pact with you, right? Like, you can't just like walk into your local fantasy Walmart, ye old Walmart, and be like, one demon contract, please. Like, I'd like to summon a Beelzebub to sign my soul away and get magic. They're gonna be like,
new campaign idea, Eldritch Walmart. Thank you.
Right?
I mean,
but
it's not that far from the truth.
I feel like there must be like a middleman, like talent agency type, like devil who will like set up mortals with like higher entities. Like, oh, we'll find a devil that's right for you. Like,
for
what do you
1/16 of your soul,
he'll
barter the rest of it.
For a mere 10% of your immortal soul, I will find. But yeah, so
I like to think that liches are actually doing that. We're playing off two different powers, so they're kind of like warlocking two different patrons at the same time, and that tug of war keeps them on the mortal plane.
Absolutely.
So they're terrified of the consequences of being destroyed because their soul gets ripped in half.
Yeah, it's a big time bummer for them if they get destroyed. But yeah, so I don't know. I just imagine that's kind of your warlock magic, and that is inaccessible because it's very scary, and also because it's not easy to find an entity. Like, if you want to become a warlock, that is a task in and of itself, right? And then you have your nature and divine domain, so like your druids and clerics, which on the surface seem to be the most accessible because it's like, oh, you just come to church, you know, you love God, you pay your tithe, and like he'll let you heal.
You
people.
hug a tree.
He'll let you heal people. He'll let you set other people on fire. Like it's super chill. But I'd like to, in my worlds, put that forth as like this is like the utmost level of devotion to be able to cast any magic that's worth anything. Like this isn't like your cleric who's like 9th level doesn't just go to temple on Pelormis and Easter, you know? Like they're there every day, put it in the work, like they're constantly like that is their life, right? So that's inaccessible because most people like don't want to do that.
Yeah, or just the whim of the god. Like
also true,
you
right?
could be like, I've worshipped and I've been like part of this congregation or whatever for 50 years, nothing. But some 20-year-old walks into town and all of a sudden that person's like casting flames.
Kevin?
And it's like,
Kevin
what?
has got the power?
Yeah, Kevin. I am going to pray a firm letter tonight. Dear Paylor, WTF,
yeah.
Kevin of all people.
Kevin?
Like,
That's when they become a warlock.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, and there's your villain.
Exactly. We're writing a campaign here. So there's that angle to it. And I think that the whim of the god is a very important thing, especially in settings like Theros and stuff, where it's like, I don't know, God says no. But it's like, exactly.
Yeah.
Then Kevin rolls in, or like, this guy is the chosen one. He's going to do some awesome stuff. And it's like, why? I don't know. The stars said, like, whatever, fuck off. I'm God. Like, you know, and you don't get to ask me that. And then you have the thing that shatters the entire theory, which is the bard. I truly believe that just not everyone is horny enough to attain barddom and get that level of magic power within their souls. But for real,
some of them are just really good musicians, man.
That's exactly it. Like, jokes aside, I think the bard is actually a really interesting one because it can be any of the categories above, right? Like either they excel at something, like kind of like a wizard, and they have that dedication to magic, and a lot of times it can be like music, for example, is the classic bard trope. Or, you know, maybe they do have like some type of a pact situation going on. Maybe they have like a sentient lute that grants them their powers and whatever, right? Like bards are much like the class themselves. They can kind of fit into any one of those categories. But yeah, I think the overall theme here is that magic is something that is often kind of accessible. You just have to know where to look, and you have to want it bad enough. And I just think that en masse, like most people,
and have it not go horribly wrong. Like, what is a warlock really but a cult leader, potentially?
Absolutely. You know? Like, there's nothing guaranteeing. Like, oh, you sign your contract, and Devil's like, cool, pulls out a gun, shoots you in the face, and you're like, what the hell? It's like, it didn't say I couldn't do that in the contract. Like, should have read the fine print.
Yeah.
And that's the commercial for the middleman devil who finds the.
It's like,
the
your soul? No, I'm not
after
after your soul, but your family's soul.
Yes. That's the real juice. Let's go.
I really like that breakdown that you had. I mean, took like a lot of my bullet points. I mean, I agree with you on all of that stuff. A few more things, if I could add, is I kind of feel like with regards to the question that your adventures are more like your professional athletes, your Olympic gymnasts, your physicists, your doctors. Like Josiah said, I mean, like a wizard's going to be studying for years and years and years. It's as far as obtaining magic for the player characters and for characters, it's up to them. Some of them just aren't going to get it. I mean, there could be somebody that's like, I'm going to be a wizard, and they end up sweeping the floor at the yawning portal because that's as far as I could get. I mean, it's just in the cards. Just like if I wanted to play professional sport, I could try, sure, but I'm not going to make it past Little League. I mean, that's just the way my body's built and everything else. So the fact there's no way I'm going to be a barbarian or a fighter, I wouldn't be able to hold my own. So I think a lot of it is that adventurers and your PCs are just superstars. They have those physical or mental abilities or that charismatic personality that allows them to become these character classes, and not only that, but to succeed in it. Sure, you could have some NPCs that have a little bit of magic ability, like cantrips. Like in Dragon Heist, they have a few adepts, or as far as a young wizard that's not like a 0 level wizard.
Yeah, adept, yeah.
Yeah, where they can cast like prestidigitation to make like little fire shows or something like that. But that's going to be about the maximum that their spellcasting ability is going to be. It's not going to progress past that. So with regards to that, I think I answered that. Okay, that's about all.
That's a really good one too.
Like, wait, I'm out of bullet points. That's kind of how I feel about it. I mean, Josiah hit like all the nails on the head right there with regards to PCs. Oh, one more thing too.
I like that idea that the cantrips really define magic for the common people. Like that's the extent of, your charlatans, your hedge wizards and things like that aren't really going to get much higher than cantrips because they just don't have the talent to hold 2 spells in their head at the same time. Because when you're putting all those spells in your head or from your spell list for the day, you are repeating those mantras in your head all the time. It's a wonder that wizards can do anything and know all those spells at the same time. And in my campaigns, there's a thing called Mordenkainen's replications or something like that, where they basically have these mental slots. There's back in the day, there was this guy who was like trying to promote memory boxes, and you put all the different objects in your memory box and stuff to give you these amazing recall abilities. That's what wizards do. That's what the slots are. They're extra levels of multitasking that the wizards can do all the time. So maybe they could learn one more spell, but they can't do all that and ride a horse, or have a conversation while they're having this stuff going on in their head all the time. And when they finally release the spell, they can relax and concentrate on something else. Yeah, so
that's a really cool idea as well. One of the things that I thought of as well is with regards to playing it out in your homebrew game, you can have them like go take night classes at the local junior college to get more spells or something, or perhaps put in that extra time at church. I kind of leave that up to the players. If they want to role play that out, or maybe tell it in game or something that, how they obtain these abilities, I absolutely love that. But if they just want to be like, okay, I'm a barbarian with a level of warlock now, I'm okay with that as well. But I really get into the players that do play that, like I'm a sorcerer. I don't say I cast prismatic orb. I'm just like, there's this really cool thing that happens. This magic forms in my hand, and maybe they've blown up a tavern or something before, or knocked a scarecrow off out of a field, and then they learn how to harness that and stuff. And when players do that, that's really cool to me to see, is them explaining how they get this magic or these powers.
Awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been trying to do an original campaign setting, and a lot of it has been focused on like the vibrational harmony of the universe. And so breaking all of that down, you have someone who doesn't really understand how all of this works, but a god has blessed them with whatever knowledge. And I always equate that to like, some people are dog people and some people aren't. Like a dog will walk up and be like, I like you. But like your friend is like, oh, I don't like that person. But like, we don't know why. And so it's kind of this like nature chose you somehow kind of a thing. And you just have a way. And going back to bards, I always like that because bards could be the person where it's like, okay, we're going to learn how to swim. And the bard literally takes it like a fish to water. Meanwhile, this other person's like, I gotta struggle and I gotta like read books at night. Like, okay, my arm goes up like this and buoyancy works like this. And so the wizard is the person doing that. And then he looks over at the bard and he's just angry. Like, why does this come so easy to you? Like, I struggle so much. But I like that because I think you guys basically, we're all in agreement in a lot of this because it's just kind of it's really up to the campaign setting. But I think it's a fun conversation to have because a lot of times you just kind of think about worlds being very magic is everywhere. And the fact that somebody should be envious or impressed if it's like, I'm I'm 50 years old and I can light a candle from 20 feet away, but like you're riding in on a tensor's floating disc. Like what the hell? Like I've literally been doing this my whole life, kind of a thing, to get just a candle, and how frustrating I think that could be, which then leads into some really cool, cults and trying to find a patron and just finding some kind of power in that way, because when you're if you are power hungry, when your traditional way isn't going to work, you're going to go in other means. And a side note, this just reminded me of it, but I've been talking with a friend of mine about starting a campaign where your villain is actually like a level 0 peasant, like 8 stats all along, but they have a belt of constitution and the intellect circlet and stuff. So with all of these magic items, their stats are amazing and they're doing all this crazy stuff. And in order to defeat them, you actually need to disrobe them. It'd be like, you can't have these gloves of ogre strength. And then when you do that, they're just a regular person and they're like, oh, I don't even remember why I was doing this.
Sounds like the Greatest American Hero, where he puts on the suit, but he's really just an ordinary guy who's using the super suit and doesn't understand how to use it. Perfect. I love how sword and sorcery really defines our genre of gaming more than Dungeons and Dragons does. And the way that you handle magic really is one of the chief parts of your world building. I had my mind blown when I was researching the early history of elves for a recent video, and I actually looked into elven high magic and what it really is. And the spell that they cast to break the world and bring this thing didn't just involve elves. They had the most talented spellcasters from lots of different races that came and joined them in this big tower, and it cost them their lives, all of them, apart from like the last one who got to experience it all. Wow. And the thing that tied all of these, because they had to be in perfect sync, and the way they did that was elven song magic. They all started singing the song. It got them all tuned mentally into the same wavelength, which drew all of their powers and allowed this elven high magic to happen. So the most powerful magic that you can cast in the world of Toril has to be done by song, and it has to be done in a group, but it also has to involve the sacrifice of life force into it. So that magic that created those mythals and most powerful long-running things actually has a living element to it.
Yeah, you're literally putting your heart and soul into this song, into this spell.
Yeah,
nice.
That's really interesting. I love looking at other fantasy worlds, like whether it's from other game systems or just like books and movies and stuff, and drawing inspiration from that and like how they handle it. Like one setting that I really like how they handle magic. I don't know if you guys have ever read the Black Company novels, but they the whole it's
like the 12th person to recommend it to me. Like,
Black Company.
I need to move it up the list because everyone's like, have you read those? I'm like, no.
Big time recommendation for me. But that aside, the way that they handle magic is it's kind of like a gritty fantasy world. Like it's a lot more sword and sorcery, and it's a lot more grounded. So magic in that world is very destructive, but also very rare and very difficult to cast. So like you have like a mercenary company, and they have like 4 mages in their mercenary company. And those 4 mages work together to cast one spell. And it takes them like 5 minutes. So literally, like, the strategy is form up around these guys because everyone's trying to kill them, and we have to, like, protect them so then they can cast Fireball and, like, wipe out all the enemies around us or whatever. And, like, that's really interesting. And I think incorporating stuff like that into D&D where, like, I'm a big fan of giving my players access to like homebrew spells and stuff like that, but like this is going to take a while and like it's going to cost you hit points if you cast the spell. But if you can pull this off in combat, it's going to be sick. It's going to be awesome. And like do with that what you will. So like a lot of times it gets used out of combat just because of how 5th edition works. But we've had some pretty fun combats where it's like hold the line while the wizard like takes a minute to figure out a spell. And then that spell is like the end of the encounter, basically. So there's fun ways you can play with that stuff for sure.
I was in a LARP game where the act of casting a spell involved eating a handful of gummy lollies or an entire can of pop. It's like, yeah, that works. Takes time, real hard. Don't want to cast a lot of spells.
I'm just picturing a wizard like running out and like shotgunning a can of Mountain Dew or something.
Yeah, the referee's like, open your mouth to see if all the gummies are gone. Okay.
You substitute those gummies for Pop Rocks, you're gonna be amazing.
Amazing.
Nice.